I get an email, and it's from the ex-girlfriend of one of my friends from school.
The voice message you were talking about was about this, yeah. It's like people wanted to look at a car wreck, you know what I mean? Now you're the one in control of it rather than trying to control this thing that is like running you.
A lot of people, when you're in any kind of addiction, what you're going to be looking for is some kind of quick fix, some fast solution, some new shiny object.
What is that going to do? That's not going to do anything to you.
Hello. So yesterday I was just doing some work and I get an email, and it's from the ex-girlfriend of one of my friends from school. And I'm a bit like, what is going on here? This is so random, like through my website as well. So I read the message, and basically she works for an agency. They work with like different companies. She's in the media world. And what happened is one of her clients had done some kind of work on porn-induced erectile dysfunction, and she'd been following these stories and working together with this media, with this different like company and doing all this stuff. And then Channel 4, so Channel 4, who we actually talked about on a recent podcast, right, Mary? They actually got in touch with her, and they were asking her, hey, you know, we love this like article that you've put out recently. Do you have any contacts who have experienced porn addiction, or anyone we can talk to, because we want to cover a story on it as well? So she sends me this long email, and she's saying, hey, you know, she's explaining everything I've just explained. And she asks me, like, would you feel comfortable talking about your porn addiction? Would you be interested in this? You know, Channel 4 are looking for someone. And it was quite interesting because obviously they're a very big sort of media presence in the UK, right? I'm not going to say my full opinions on them. I think some stuff they put out is great. Some stuff I'm not so sure about, especially some of these like documentaries on YouTube. But kind of went back and forth with this girl who's like the ex of my friend. We went back and forth. We had a phone call, and it sounded quite interesting. And then she came back to me and she was saying like, okay, well, you know, it sounds like you might be a good fit for it, but do you know anyone who's like struggling with porn addiction? And it got me thinking, because I think that's the angle that a lot of people in the media are looking for. Like, they're looking for people struggling with porn addiction. And that's so common, is people talking about the problem, you know, the symptoms, how it feels to be in it. But I don't really feel like there's many people talking from the other side of it. I mean, we had this Strictly Come Dancing star come out this week talking again about struggling with porn addiction, and probably getting a lot of sympathy online, a lot of people sharing the struggle, just as they do in the NoFap communities. But what I want to do, and that's kind of the mission here at Beyond Compulsion Academy, is shift the culture from one of disempowerment, where we're all like lost and confused and going on in circles, relapsing every few weeks or months or days, and get it into a place where we're actually all clear and we know exactly what to do at all times. And that's why when, you know, this woman asked me, hey, like, do you know anyone struggling with porn addiction? I was like, no. Like, if you've done my program, you'll be in a position where you should know exactly what to do at all times, and you have a very clear, consistent process to deal with this problem, and you no longer worry about what to do. And to me, that isn't struggling with porn addiction. It's not to say you may never have the desire again, but at that point, like, once you know exactly what to do, you should, in my opinion, be good. Like, you have a system, you put it in place, and you crack on with your life. So Mary, over to you. Do you want to kind of share your thoughts on all of this? Because obviously you've worked in addiction recovery like 36 years now.
Yeah. Well, now I'm really realizing the voice message you were talking about was about this. Yeah. And I feel like, first of all, that the media, they just want that sensationalism, you know, talk about the struggle and, oh, how, you know, terrible it is for people and whatever. And rather than coming to you and going, hey, yeah, this guy's struggling or these people are struggling, what's a solution? How can we help them? They want to like stay in that mire of like, I don't know why it's that way, but it is, you know. And yeah, guys are struggling when they come here because they don't have a solution, right? You know, we've obviously got our publication, The Reality of Porn Addiction, with all the documentation of how the guys are struggling, but to keep it in that focus, because, you know, it's almost like It's like people wanted to look at a car wreck, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't like it particularly, and maybe people will hear this stuff on the media and then relate to it, and I just don't understand what their point is to want to hear about your struggle rather than hear about how you can actually help people get out of that struggle, get free of the struggle, you know? So did
Mm.
you decide not to do an interview?
I'm still open to it. I think we might have a
Yeah.
conversation tomorrow or the
Yeah,
day
I'd
after.
do it.
So
I would do it and say exactly what we're talking about here, you know? Yeah, it's like it doesn't, but I think the other point that you made in the voicemail that you left for me was that this idea that addiction is this ongoing struggle your entire life, right? And I think because so many people are stuck in addiction, don't know how to get out, that they want to keep that narrative going. You know, like, oh, yeah, this is just it. And because in some ways, it justifies their own behavior to engage in their own addiction, right? So I think maybe that's partially why people get sort of stuck on the real, you know, negative aspect of it rather than, hey, let's focus on how we can change this, you know, because it is changeable, but most of the methods don't don't change anything. You know, they keep it going, and that's what people have access to mostly, you know. So they want to validate their own behaviors, like, okay, yeah, this is just the way it is, this is why people do this, because it's just, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, and it kind of just perpetuates that cycle of helplessness and that feeling of I'm stuck in this problem. It's something I've just got to manage and contain and control. And that's been such a big thing for me is understanding the difference. And, you know, we had a client talking about this in his voice notes today is the difference between being like clear and like free from the addiction and managing, controlling, containing it. Right. Do you want to kind of explain what the difference is there, Mary?
Between managing and controlling it and being free of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, the thing is when you really get free of an addiction, you're not trying to control it. Trying to control an addiction is its own hell, you know? It's like, well, maybe you do less of the behavior, like maybe you engage with your addictive behavior every couple of weeks or something like that, but then everything in between is just, you know, madly trying to get away from it, you know? And that's its own hell. You know, seriously, I feel like people that in their addiction, you know, just actively doing it whenever they have the desire are in a little bit of a less hell than the ones trying to control it. You know, that's not the goal. The goal is not to try to control your addiction. The goal is to get to the point where it's not controlling you, you know, that where um it's interesting, the end of my first book, or my second book actually, Beyond Food Compulsion, the last chapter is a summary of everything that I've taught throughout the book, and it's called the control panel changes hands, right? So it's like now you're the one in control of it rather than trying to control this thing that is like running you, right? Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah, definitely. I was on a call with a guy about an hour ago, and he actually said, this is a client of ours, right? And he was actually talking about how his like mental stance and his understanding of this whole problem is like completely transformed since being in the Beyond Compulsion Academy. And he was saying that he's realized now that it's not really so much about like the sexual urges, which he once thought it was. And instead it's about how do you actually master and be in control of your mind and seeing that as a skill set rather than
Yeah.
something which you, I don't know, like, you know, like the whole counting day culture, right? Like
Yeah.
NoFap, like that is so far away from developing any sort of skill set or mastery of the thought patterns because obviously within those cultures it's really focused just about, you know, that one result, that superficial goal of how many days can you go of abstinence
Yeah.
from porn and masturbation, which it just really doesn't have anything to do with actually educating yourself and changing the way you think and learning how to be in control of your compulsive desires across all behaviors, not just porn necessarily, but being in
Right.
control of yourself moment by moment, which actually is a completely different thing really to just abstaining from porn and masturbation.
Yeah, it's learning a skill that you can, use in all aspects of your life and all the choices that you make in your life. Because, like, well, the voice messages that we were listening to today of this person that was kind of, comparing the things that he did in the past, where it's like just another way to try to distract from that, and that's not education. That's just, okay, what's another way? They're trying to get creative. This particular message was about, like, now don't just go and try to run, like literally physically run or go to the gym or whatever, but get tap into the porn, right? Get the porn on your computer, like get it right there, and then when you're really, really right there, ready to do it, then go run. And it's like they're just taking the same recycled shit and putting another twist on it, and it's just like, what is that going to do? That's not going to do anything to you. I really couldn't understand the point, and neither could the guy who left the voice message for us, and I mean, I was laughing so hard listening to it, and he was just laughing too, of the, like, total absurdity of it, and then I think it was like, and then come back from the run or something, or the gym, and then, like, put the porn back on the screen or something, but then have it on there and then look away. It was like it was just the most ludicrous advice I've ever heard in my life, rather than just getting a really good solid understanding and education around how the addictive part of the mind works and how you can change those pathways. It's
Yeah, and
funny. It's funny but not funny, because it's harming a lot of people, this bullshit.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that's the thing, is that a lot of these approaches, they're so focused on willpower, and there's this idea of strength and discipline being really, really
Yeah,
involved
yeah.
and all of that sort of stuff. But it really is just about learning how to be in control of yourself by making rational choices, using the rational part of our minds and using like some logic, and have a really thorough education and understanding of what's going on in these different parts going on in the brain. And once you've got all of that and you know what to do, it's kind of like just putting that into practice repetitively over and over and over and
Yeah.
over. And I think the problem is, as well, is that a lot of people, when you're in any kind of addiction, what you're going to be looking for is some kind of quick fix, some fast solution, some new shiny object. That's what people want, is the next quick thing, really, because that's so appealing. Of course, it is. But the problem with that is you could literally just jump from one shiny object to another, to another, to another for decades, and just go round in circles, continuing to relapse. And instead, what people really need is just to have one method that works, that consistently enables you to be in the driver's seat and actually be in control of yourself, and then just use it repeatedly, and not waver, like not go off track. Like, once you've figured out a way of dealing with this problem, it really is just about reinforcing that education and that learning. And to a lot of the guys actually in Beyond Compulsion Academy, we're saying to them, like, look, it really is advised to like show up to group calls, maybe rewatch the training videos, but there's no new information. Like, between phase 1 and phase 3 of our program, there's everything that is required, basically, and then everything else in the program, it just expands or kind of reinforces that education, or just says it in different words, but there's nothing new. Like, whereas a lot of these other programs, or like the education out there, there's like a new thing every week. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to change what we do. Like, I'm not going to change my method ever, like in my whole life. Like, if I found something that works, I'm going to stick with this now, because I know it works, and it's worked for me for like nearly 2 years. So I'm just going to stick to that. And I think that's the key thing, is like, once you found something that works, it's just that stickiness of sticking to it. And that in itself is obviously a little bit challenging at times, but it also just makes everything so much easier. And that's why, with Channel 4 getting in touch, asking me if someone's struggling, I'm like, well, like that shouldn't really be the case. Like, if you're doing things properly, you shouldn't be struggling with this problem, in my opinion. Like, you should know what to do, you deal with it. It's uncomfortable at times, but then you crack on and you kind of enjoy the process of changing your mind just over time, day by day.
Yeah. The thing is there can be, you get that education, and then, accept that you can do some maintenance, but you're not going to change what you're doing. It's like, let's say that, like, okay, I have a furnace, right, that heats my house, right? And it's lovely. I love having a nice, cozy, warm house, but you buy like a maintenance contract, right? So it's like someone comes in and maintains your furnace so that it keeps working properly. But it's not something that, you're going to be thinking about all the time. It's like, oh, my furnace, whatever. It's like, oh, then the maintenance comes in and your furnace works lovely and whatever. Um, but I was thinking again about this voice message, and how they just try to put some more extreme twist on the same things. I think it's to get people to, because there's so much crap in your face. So now let's do something really extreme to get somebody's attention. Like, now pull the porn up on your screen or whatever. Like, take a heroin addict. Would you tell them, okay, fill the syringe, like, put it to your arm, and then right when you're ready to put the needle in, then set it down and go for a run. And then come back, and then now let's actually put the needle in, but don't push the syringe thing, just then pull it out. I mean, I think it's just attention getting, because it's so extreme. People are like, oh, well, yeah, it's something different, something new, or whatever. Another, like you say, another shiny object. But if you can just really, like, tap into any kind of rational thinking, that it's ludicrous. It's completely ludicrous what they're trying to do. But, you know, again, addiction epidemic, right? So you got all these people trying to sell shiny objects, and then applying it to addiction, and it's literally insane.
Yeah,
Literally
absolutely.
insane.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think like it's quite hard to explain this, I suppose, but the way I've started to see things now with like neural pathways and things is you're going to have like a load of thought patterns in your mind, right? And when you're in addiction, it's very confusing. You're going to be worrying about relapsing. You're going to be thinking about the last time you looked at porn. You're going to be thinking about triggers and how to avoid it. And that's where a lot of people are at, right? And then to get like fully free from the problem, you basically want to get to a position where you see that most of the stuff that you've probably been taught at some point was bullshit and it was actually keeping you stuck. And you realize that all it is just moment by moment. Am I the one like in control of myself? And you might still have these compulsive desires come up in your mind for sure. But you want to be in a position where you just have the exact same process every single time. And I think the problem is as well is people don't even know what compulsive desire is a lot of the time. Like they're having all these unanswerable questions, all these junky thoughts of all this conflated thinking, and they're not even identifying that as, oh, that's me wanting to engage in my compulsive behavior right now.
Right. Yeah. It just fills up their head. They don't know how to deal with it. So then they just want to try to get away from it. But then they have the unanswerable questions, which create more unanswerable questions. And they're just like living in their head. And then they end up just engaging in the behavior to get out of that spin of like, oh my God, rather than being able to identify that, and not having to engage with those questions that lead them down that path, to just engaging to get out of it. They don't know how to deal with it, and then they usually just go to therapy, and then they get diagnosed with some kind of a disorder because they're just like living in their heads all the time, and the overthinking disorder or whatever. I had one of the guys, therapist, diagnose him with a disorder. I won't say what the disorder was or whatever, but I made the joke. I made it to you this morning, as I said you could ask the therapist. He's actually a psychiatrist. Ask the psychiatrist if he has a dispensing bad advice disorder. It's like, and I read too, they're calling like vaping, smoking, whatever, tobacco use disorder. All like, what the hell, and there's the opiate use disorder. You know, so now you're labeled with these disorders, right? So this is just who you are. This is helplessness, just what you're going to do. It's like, God, grasping
Mm.
at straws. It just is. It's phenomenal to me.
I think that's the other thing with, the whole idea of, okay, porn addiction, are you still addicted to porn or not? And like
Yeah.
that idea that you are this addict rather than, okay, sure, like we might use the term like porn addict just because sometimes it's maybe easier to get across the point or illustrate a picture in your
Yeah.
minds. But really, when you're deeper, like what does that actually mean? I mean, like first and foremost, you're a human being and everyone's susceptible to addiction. Everyone's susceptible to having these neural pathways wired from wanting to engage in a behavior to acting on that, right? So if you like really break it down and you get into it, like my opinion is that people aren't like these porn addicts, and maybe we can call it that. It doesn't really matter. But basically, if you really break it down, if you want to use the right language, people have a problem where they want to stop a behavior, but they keep on engaging in that behavior. Like that's all it is. That's all it is people have a behavior in their life that they want to stop, but no matter how hard they try, they keep engaging in it. Okay. And
Whatever
so
you want. Yeah.
yeah, but that's what it is. And so this
Yeah.
idea of, okay, do you know anyone still struggling with porn addiction? Again, like if we go back into like my definition of what porn addiction is, it's someone who, wants to engage in a behavior and they don't know how to stop engaging in it. But then
Yeah.
if
It happens
I've
happens to be porn. Yeah.
yeah, but then if
Yeah.
I'm helping people stop engaging it by providing an education, it wouldn't make any sense for me to know anyone who doesn't know how to stop, because the whole point of our program is to help them stop that behavior very specifically in the same way, time and time again, with a repeatable process. And that's all it is. But I don't get, like, when you look at that in isolation, it makes absolutely no sense for gym, meditation, self improvement, reading books, journaling, I don't know, finding your purpose, finding meaning in life, like socializing, like getting a girlfriend, like none of that makes any sense within the context of what it really means to be addicted, which is like you want to stop a behavior in your life and you don't know how to stop it. That's all it is.
Yeah. That's all it is. Or eating healthy. And that's a big one, right? Just start. What does eating healthy have to do with experiencing an addiction to using pornography? It's like zero. But that's, change your lifestyle, just adopt a healthy lifestyle. That's like one of the main things. And then somehow you're going to change your lifestyle and find your purpose, all that, and then you're not going to want to do porn anymore. That's bullshit. 100% bullshit. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It just is. And then also, I think the misunderstanding that so many people have is that it's like some sexual problem as well. And I mean, yeah, like the symptoms, don't get me wrong, the symptoms of being in a porn addiction can often be very sexual. Like you are likely to experience
Yeah.
maybe erectile dysfunction or, I don't know, premature ejaculation. Like, sure, like the symptoms are going to be very related. And because there is an aspect of sex in a way, well, not sex, it's just on a screen, but and it's fake, obviously. But there's an aspect, sure, of maybe like sexuality in some way, but I mean, does it really have that much to do with it? I don't think so.
Well, I feel like we do put a lot of energy into separating those two because men are, sexual beings for sure, right? So, but the thing is there's aspects of that, men and their sexuality, their virility, that is like, that's attractive, but I'll tell you what, there's nothing attractive about a guy who's stuck in a pornography addiction. That's not attractive. Those are two completely different things. One thing in common, is sexual desire, I guess, but being wired to deal with your sexual desire from a very, very young age on a screen, it's pixels, and whatever, and all this fake crap, that takes a little just realizing that that's how you got wired, but that having a sexual desire that is healthy and good and with real people, that's a completely different thing. But, just having that awareness and being able to separate those two, I think is really valuable. And then, yeah, and then go have some sex.
Yeah, pretty
Get
much.
it. Go
Or
get it, man. Yeah.
or down is doesn't really matter either way, I guess,
Yeah.
right?
This doesn't. It's just understanding that they're two completely different things,
Mm.
but there's that association because when, I mean, it's a sexual desire, it starts out that way, generally speaking. I mean, so many of our guys, literally everybody I talk to, it's like 10, 11, 12. Those are the three ages when I say, when did you get stuck in this porn addiction? 10, 11, 12, and lots even younger, some older, but mostly right around that age, so there you have that association with, oh, horny, right? So then it's about breaking that association, right?
Yeah.
And then doing that by changing your neural pathways, and then you develop the new neural pathways that associate, sexual desire with actually having sex with a person and having intimacy and having a relationship and all the things that come with getting free of the porn addiction. So yeah.
So I think the other thing that can come up is the unanswerable questions in this context. I mean, there can be so many unanswerable questions around how much porn has to do with sex, or like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, like, is this a sexual problem or not? I mean, I basically asked that then, right? But really, it's just an
Yeah.
unanswerable question. Like, outside of the context of us doing a podcast on it, if I actually did have that question go on, like, swirling around in my own mind, I would
Yeah.
just go, okay, that's compulsive desire. That's an indicator of some neural pathway that I
100%.
want to change, because if someone who doesn't have a problem with like any addiction at all, they wouldn't really have that question. Like, it wouldn't be
Right.
swirling around in their mind. And
Yeah.
that's the evidence you need to have to know that, oh, right, well, that's probably an unanswerable question. I know what I'm going to do in this moment. I'm going to treat that and deal with it, because that's the addictive part of the mind doing some talking. I know what to do.
Yeah.
So
Once you sort that out and you understand unanswerable questions and you actually change your pathways, then when down the road, you're not going to have these unanswerable questions because they're part of the compulsive desire that you treat and change the pathway. So
exactly.
it becomes a non-issue,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Good
you can
stuff.
even just like witness them as well. Like I've just
Yeah.
done then. It's like you just
Yeah.
see it as like, oh yeah, I mean, you don't actually need to engage with that. It's just bullshit, really.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Exactly.
for the podcast, it was probably quite a good podcast question to explain to people.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, there we go. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being on the podcast as always, Mary. Thank you for listening as well. Hopefully this can maybe shift your perspective on things a little bit. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.